Well, hello boys and girls, this is Mr. Bedley. We're doing 4th grade lesson 32, Excel 4th grade lesson 32, and we're going to be learning how to multiply a 2-digit number times a 2-digit number. And I'm going to show it to you a little bit differently than what you see here. But first, let's get a joke going here for you today. What do you call an alligator in a vest? What do you call an alligator in a vest? Well, stay tuned and you'll find out. So what I'm going to do instead of going through all of this here on this page, all of this stuff, I'm going to just give you a lesson here on a blank piece of paper where I teach you how to do 2-digit multiplication. So let's take the numbers, let's take a problem, 32 times 14, let's say. Okay, 32 times 14. Let's think about what that actually means that we're doing. We're actually multiplying 32 times 4 because there's a 4 in the ones place, and we're multiplying 32 times 10. That's not a 1, that's a 10 because it's in the tens place. 1 in the tens place makes 10. So whatever 32 times 4 is and 32 times 10 is, if I add those together, I should get what 32 times 14 is. So think of it like this. Think of it as like 12 times 3. I'm going to show it to you a little bit differently here to give you an example so you can understand. 12 times 3 is kind of like 3 times 2 and 3 times 10 put together. You see, it's 3, this is a 2, and that's a 10 right there. That's not actually a 1. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 10 is 30. So altogether you have 36, and most of you know that 12 times 3 is 36. So what is 32 times 4? Well, 32 times 2, let's think of that in terms of just actually doing 32s, the number 32 4 times. 32, 32, 32, and 32 is what we're actually doing. We're adding those all together, putting those 4 numbers, that number 32 together 4 times. 32 and 32 makes 64. I can do that in my head. And this is 64. So if I put all 4 of those together, I get 128, because 64 plus 64 is 128. 4 plus 4 is 8. 6 plus 6 is 12. And then 32 times 10, well, that's easy. That's 320, because when I multiply a number times 10, as we've been learning, you stick a 0 on the end of the 32, or you move the 32 over one spot to the left in the place value mat. 8 plus 0 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4, 3 plus 1 is 4, and so the answer is 448. Now let's take another look at that type of a problem. I'm going to clear the board off here. Let's see. That's not working. So we're going to take a look at that a different way. 32 times 14. I'm not going to actually write it, but what we're saying here is we're taking the number 32 and we're doing that 14 times. Okay, so far I've written it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If I was to write that 14 times and add all those numbers together, that's really what 32 times 14 means. Now there is an algorithm or a way that we can do this without doing the 32 times 4 and 32 times 10 written out to the side. That is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do 32 times 4, and most of you know the shortcut for doing a problem like that. So we do 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 4 is 12. I'm just ignoring the 1 right now. I'm just putting that off till later. Actually, the 10 is what that is. And then I'm going to do 32 times 10. Well, remember, 32 times 10, it has to end in a 0. So I'm going to put a 0 there. And then I do 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 1 is 3. and then I add up, these are called my partial products here. 8 plus 0 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 3 plus 1 is 4. Still getting the same answer of 448. So you can do this either way, the first way that I showed you or the way that I showed you right now. The way that it's going to be on your paper is going to be like this. Okay, here are the steps for 32 times 24 that they show you, and I'm going to just skip over this, so if you want to look at that, take a good look at it, that's fine, but we're going to do some problems. Alright, this first one is 73 times 2, and stay with me here, I'm going to show you the steps that we would go through. First I'm multiplying 73 times 2. Did I say 73 times 2 already? 73 times 32 is what we're doing. But 73 times 2 is what I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to multiply 73 times the 3 that's in the tens place, which means I'm multiplying it by 30. And then I'm going to add those two numbers together to get my final answer. So 73 times 2 is 146. You might be able to even do that in your head. A 73 and a 73 makes 146. And then 73 times 30, I'm going to have a 0 in the ones place because there is no ones here that I'm multiplying. I'm doing 3 times 30, which is 90. You can think of it that way. And then 70 times 30 is 2100, or 7 times 3 is 21. And then I add the numbers together to get my final product or final answer. Okay, do number 2 with me, just right as I'm talking to you. You can kind of look at your paper and listen and see if you can maybe stay one step ahead of me. I'm going to do 53 times 1 first, and of course that's equal to 53. They give you some little dotted lines to guide you here, and then so keep the numbers inside those dotted lines, hopefully better than I do with my big stylus here. But 53 times 30 is what I'm going to do next, and so I'm putting a 0 down to hold the ones place, and 3 times 3 is 9, and then 5 times 3 is 15, and add those together to get 61643. Hopefully you can do that addition pretty easily. Alright, why don't you pause the video, try just number 3 by yourself, turn the video back on when you're ready to see the solution to that one. Okay, so you should have already given number 3 a shot. 1 times 5 is 5. 8 times 5 is 40. That's the first thing I'm doing, is 81 times 5, which is 405. Now I'm going to get rid of that 5 so I can remember I'm already done with that. I'm doing 81 times 30. So I'm putting a 0 down to hold the ones place. 1 times 3, or 1 times 30, is 30. You can see that number right here, 30. And then 8 times 3 is 24. And then we're going to add together our two answers here, 405 plus 2,430. 5 plus 0 is 5, 3 plus 0 is 3, 4 plus 4 is 8, and 2 plus nothing is 2. If you got the wrong answer, erase it, fix it, and learn from your mistakes. Alright, hopefully you're getting the hang of this by now. Go ahead and try numbers 4 through 6. Pause the video, turn it back on when you're ready to see the solutions to those. Alright, so first of all we're doing 62 times 1. Well, 62 times 1 is 62. You should have written that there. And now we're done with the 1, and we're going to multiply 62 times 20. You got to put a 0 in the ones place to hold that. 2 times 2 is 4, and 6 times 2 is 12. And just add the two numbers together. 2, 10, carry the 1, 3, and 1. 1,302. Let me show you that one the other way as well. We can do 62. We're really multiplying 62 times 1, and then 62 times 20. We're putting those together. So 62 times 1 is obviously 62. 62 times 2 is 124, but this is times 20, so it's 124 with a 0 on the end, 1,240. When I add those together, I still get the 1,302. Alright, so here's how to do number 5. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Think of it this way, 23 times 2. 2 23s. 23 and 23 is 46. Now I'm done with that ones place. I'm going to multiply 23 times 30. Well, there's not going to be any ones if I'm multiplying it times 30. 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 3 is 6. Add that up and get 6, 13, 736. The last one here is 20 times 1 is my first step, which is equal to 20, obviously. And then 20 times 80 I'm doing next. I'm going to put a 0 there, and then 0 times 8 is 0. 2 times 8 is 16. Watch out for that. I bet some of you probably put 160 for that one, but 20 times 80 is not 160. Think about that. 80 times 2 is 160, right? Two 80s. 80 and 80 makes 160. So if you put 160 right there, that makes no sense, because there's no way that 80 times 2 can be 160 and 80 times 20 can be 160. And then we just simply add those together. 1620 adds real easily, and that's my answer. Erase and fix anything that you've done wrong. Now we go to our last section here. You have 4 problems to do with 2 check answers. Go ahead and do all 4 of those. Pause the video, turn it back on when you're ready to see the solution. All right, so here we go. We're going to do 84 times 2 first. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16. My 8 looks really weird. Okay, and then now we're going to multiply 84 times 20. So I need a 0 to hold the place there. 20 times 4, that's 80, or 8 there. And then 8 times 2 is 16. And add them all together. 8 plus 6 is 14. Carry the 1. We have another 8 and a 1 there. 3. Now we're doing 93 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Now you notice here we're doing 93 times 30, so it's going to be the same answer as the one above it, but it's just going to have a 0 in the ones place. So that's 279. Excuse me, 9, 16, carry the 1, that's 10, carry the 1, and that's a 3. So you should have put 1848 here. And hopefully you didn't just give up and turn on the video. And 3069 here. And then 8 plus 9 is 17. Carry the 1. That's 11. Carry the 1. Always add those check answers. That's 9 and that's 4. Never just copy this number down to here. That's called faking your check answers. And you will not be rewarded in our class for being lazy and faking your check answers. All right, the next one, we have 40 times 3 first. I can do that in my head. You might have to multiply it out, but I know that 4 times 3 is 12, so 40 times 3 is 120. But let's just do that. 0 times 3 is 0. 4 times 3 is 12. See, it's 120. Now I'm multiplying 40 times 20, not 40 times 2. Put a 0 down there. 0 times 2 is 0, and 4 times 2 is 8. And we add those up and get 920. Here we're doing 64 times 2. I can do that in my head. That's 128, right? 64 plus 64, 128. And then I'm going to do 64 times 10, which is 640. And you should know from your place value chart, if you do 64 times 10, you're moving that over one place there to get this. Okay? There you go, 640. So add that together, 8, 6, 7, and then you should add these two numbers together here. The order, of course, doesn't matter. And I want to tell you as I'm doing this that an alligator wearing a vest, of course, is an investigator. Investigator. Ha 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 ha. Okay, terrible joke. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.